So, Blink. Well, where do I start with this? Like Leather Monsters, Blink is a Doctor-like episode, an effective time and money saving measure from the show's production staff, built around filming an episode that requires the minimal involvement of the lead actors. Also, like Leather Monsters, Blink is an episode of Doctor Who that is about Doctor Who. Granted, Stephen Moffat's script doesn't engage with the fandom as directly as RTD's did last series. Here the fans trying to find their own meaning in the show are the anonymous netizens on forums and fan sites, rather than a friendly group of eccentric individuals enriched by contact with one another. While Love and Monsters is about how Doctor Who fandom tends to serve to unite diverse people beyond an interest in Doctor Who itself, forming bonds that become more significant and important in the interest in the show, Blink is very much a story about trying to make sense of the show itself. The former is very much anchored in the classical fan tradition, dating back to the classic show. Elton's memory of the Doctor in last series' Love and Monsters is faintly recalled from childhood. There's a sense that he recalls a mood and the character better than he can remember the narrative or the details. Elton was a character who grew up after a chance encounter with the Doctor when he was younger, and who saw a shape his life. Elton's fandom was distorted when Victor Kennedy arrived and tried to turn Linda into a unit of information-gathering killjoys. There was a sense that nobody involved with Linda really had a holistic understanding of the Doctor, with their vision of the character drawn from little snippets caught here or there, and superfan Victor arriving with the promise of more information and more material relating to the Doctor. In short, Love and Monsters is really based on a traditional model of Doctor Who fandom, one which probably existed before the DVD revolution made it possible to analyse the show frame by frame, and relatively easy to a significant portion of it. Victor's information on the Doctor can only really hold sway in an era before the internet made access to such information more democratic and widespread. In contrast, Blink is very much the story of modern fandom. It's a story of how people can pick apart every single frame of the show that they love, and how people can delve even deeper into the source material than ever before. DVD Easter eggs are a vital plot point here, and the show's rather iconic video recording isn't even available on the third series' DVD as an Easter egg itself. Lawrence is introduced as a likeable obsessive who has poured hours and hours into his analysis of the Doctor's recordings. Blink repeatedly calls attention to just how much Lawrence is communicating in the language of modern fandom, a group ready to pick apart every sentence or hint, or even a piece of subtext looking for a deeper meaning that really isn't there. After the Doctor advises him to look left, Lawrence delves right in an absurdly abstract political reading. What does he mean by look to your left, he ponders. I've written tons about that on the forums. I think it's a political statement, he says. Later in the same conversation, Moffat suggests that the Doctor has created his own memes, a cottage industry of fans echoing and repeating his phrases as some sort of in-joke. The angels have the phone box. Lawrence repeats at one point, "That's my favourite, I've got that on a t-shirt." And I actually really did used to have that on a t-shirt. Just a little tidbit for you there. In a very real way, Blink is an explanation how home media has changed since the show went on air, and how that has really changed the way that we understand and talk about Doctor Who. After all, it's telling the Doctor is sent back to 1969. It was the last year with any completely missing Doctor Who material. After that, every broadcast serial was recorded and preserved and maintained. It wasn't always readily available in colour, but everything from Jon Pertwee's first season and onwards is available to fans in one way or another. While the classic Doctor Who DVD line was still being released in 2007 when Blink was broadcast, we were definitely moving towards a world where Doctor Who is readily available to everybody and anybody to pore over. Moffat is a writer best known for his timey-wimey scripts. There's no denying about his work on Doctor Who makes great use of the show's central time travel setup. Blink is itself a rather cleverly constructed time travel narrative, with all the elements moving in some sort of a loop, with the final scene tying all the necessary loose ends by having Sally give the Doctor all the necessary information before he encounters the Weeping Angels in the first place. However, there's also a sense that Moffat is playing with the strange piece of time travel that occurs every time that a fan sticks on a classic DVD, rewatching and re-engaging with a story that is decades old. I'm watching it in 2019, but it's a piece of far older history. There's a strange dissonance there as we try to put it all in context and to understand its original air date. Who is to say that we can ever fully understand the nuance and complexity lurking behind the lines? Is it possible that we're bringing too much modern baggage with us now? It's all relative. When Sally receives a letter from Kathy, we're reminded of the strange disconnect. This was a letter written decades ago, but is immediately relevant to Sally. It's part of her timeline, but version of events. It is part of her present, and we really can't be separated from that. Sally can't help but react to the 20-year-old letter in the light of her immediate surroundings. It's a very interesting and very clever idea. As much as Moffat likes to play with time, he's also a writer who engages with technology. In particular, Moffat's scripts tend to be built around broken or malfunctioning technology, stuff that is trying to work but is failing badly. The surgery units that tried to put a little boy back together, the repair robots working on a stranded ship, the communications technology that retains the faintest echo of long dead people, and the living brain computer that saved them in the Library two-parter next series. In Blink, it's interesting that the Weeping Angels aren't really an example of glitchy technology. Instead, the Doctor himself is presented as a ghost in the machine. The DVD player in the shot won't even properly pause when he's on screen. It's like he's a ghost DVD extra, Lawrence helpfully explains. He just shows up where he's not supposed to be. Indeed, up until the final scene, Sally spends most of the episode interacting with echoes of the Doctor, DVD recordings and holograms. The day is saved by the TARDIS DVD player after all. Still, the Weeping Angels remain a brilliant idea even now, even if they're somewhat diminished by their frequent reappearances. They work on several levels. On a rather basic level, they're pretty much perfect Doctor Who monsters. Like a lot about this episode, they call attention to the nature of the show itself, and the Weeping Angels are pretty much the best budget-saving monsters ever created. These elements lean heavily on the fourth wall, as Billy Shipton's observation about the design of the TARDIS. But this isn't a real one, he informs Sally, as he shows her the TARDIS. The phone's just a dummy and the windows are the wrong size. He's echoing a particularly hardcore fan complaint about the famous blue box. Similarly, Lawrence's co-worker is able to provide some great plot advice as he enthusiastically watches a horror film. Go to the police, you stupid woman. Why does nobody ever just go to the police? These elements draw attention to the fictional nature of the show, just as the design of the Weeping Angels does, but both work excellently. The Weeping Angels are defined...
Go to the police, you stupid woman! Why does nobody ever just go to the police?
The Weeping Angels are defined so much that they can't move on screen. They look like statues. They only move when the audience isn't looking, which is a great way to make them effective. All you need is models and actors who can hold perfectly still for a few frames, even if they had to use a little bit of CGI here and there. These are creatures could have been easily created for the classic series, and could easily have been terrifying without a large production budget. More than that though, their entire gimmick is based around terrifying the audience who know they are watching a television show. These monsters move when you aren't looking, so covering your eyes or cuddling into a cushion, or even hiding behind the sofa are all poor choices here. The only chance of survival that you have is to keep watching, which also makes them effective villains for an episode about obsessive Doctor Who fans. Director Hetty MacDonald does a wonderful job here, particularly on the episode's climax. It's a shame that the show never recruited her again. The great shot of the TARDIS being rocked back and forth by the mob of angels as the light dims and brightens is gloriously evocative. The sequences where the angels advance on Sally and Lawrence is also incredibly tense and so brilliantly executed.
Okay, boys. I know how this works. You can't move so long as I can see you. Whole world in the box, the doctor says. I hope he's not lying, because I don't see how else we're getting out. Oh, and there's your one.
Why is it pointing at the light?
Oh my God, it's turning out the light!
Quickly!
I can't find the lock!
Sally, hurry up! They're getting closer, Sally, come on!
Turn!
Sally! Oh! Sally, hurry up! Come on!
This is Security Protocol 712. This time capsule has detected the presence of an authorized control disk. Valid 1 journey. Please insert the disk and prepare for departure.
Looks like a DVD player, there's a slot.
They're trying to get in!
Furthermore, and including that scene, another scene I really love is when Sally plays the DVD and we get that fantastic timey-wimey speech, which is, and probably always will be, my favourite 10th Doctor quote. Maybe of all of Who.
Yeah, people don't understand time. It's not what you think it is.
Then what is it?
Complicated.
Tell me.
Very complicated.
I'm clever and I'm listening, and don't patronise me because people have died and I'm not happy. Tell me.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Normatively, this episode is ingenious, investing us in a character that we've never met, but suddenly feel that we have been around her a lot longer than we have. She loses an old friend and has the potential of a new boyfriend snatched with her within mere moments. All the while, the episode is making us question the presence of the statues and whether that slight moment we thought we detected was real after all. It's this concept that makes the episode's enemy, the Weeping Angels, a stroke of real genius, and just evidence of how clever Stephen Moffat really is. Furthermore, all of the performances in this episode are absolutely exceptional, but of course, on particular note, is Carey Mulligan as Sally. She carries every aspect of the episode, from a spark with Detective Inspector Shipton to a confusion and fear from losing Kathy Nightingale. She seems perfect companion material, not just because she's able to defeat the Weeping Angels, but because she is able to keep up with the Doctor's somewhat tortured logic. As the episode ends, it's difficult to believe that so much was accomplished in such a short amount of time. The story of not one but two relationships were told, several timelines intersected, and a new and rather frightening enemy was vanquished, without the Doctor ever coming face to face with them. There were little throwaway lines in here that could only add to the entire proceeding, such as the Doctor saying, "I'm rubbish at weddings, especially my own." This episode could also work as a terrific entry point for any non-Who fan. Have them meet the Doctor through Sally's prayer as Blink works as a terrific self-contained story all on its own. Overall, Blink remains a wonderfully constructed episode and an insightful exploration of the relationship between the fans and the show. It's a deftly written, cleverly put together adventure that remains one of the highlights of the new series, and is certainly one of the best ever conceptually and in execution. I'll give Blink a 10 out of 10.
Don't blink. Don't even blink. Blink and you're dead. They are fast, faster than you could believe. Don't turn your back. Don't look away, and don't blink. Good luck.